Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's training. This week, I decided to go over just some important skills for caregivers to have while we are in these classrooms with these kids, and then a little bit of why it's important as well. There are a lot more skills that are beneficial in the classroom. These are just, I think, 5. I did 4 or 5 of the ones that I think are the most important. So we will go ahead and jump into it. So the very first one that I wanted to talk about is passion. Why do you guys think it's important to love what you do?
I guess because it helps you want to get up in the morning.
Yeah, that is definitely a big one. I know that there are days when I don't want to get up out of bed, but knowing that I'm going into work that I love to do definitely helps with that. Caitlin said to have the patience to handle situations. I think in this career, especially, that's very important, to have the love for what you do, to know that you can have that patience to make it through any challenges that arise. Any other reasons why you think it's important? Okay. So I wanted to talk a little bit about passion, what I found passion to mean, also what I personally think passion means. So passion is an emotion that's often described as an uncontrollable feeling. It's uncontrollable love, it's uncontrollable excitement for something. It's this extreme emotion when it comes to what you're talking about. So with that, passion in our career would be best described as uncontrollable love for the kids you work with and the time you spend in the classrooms that you're in. This includes a lot of different things when it comes to showing love for the kids and your work. But mostly it's, again, just enjoying that time that you're there. So how does this love affect your work? A couple of the ways that I've talked about, and then I'll ask you guys as well, so be thinking. For me, when I love the work that I'm doing, it drives me to do my best work. It makes it so that I want to get to know all of the kids as fast as I possibly can, so that I can call them by their names. It makes me want to ensure that the food that I'm prepping for them is the best. It also ensures that I'm wanting to show up on time and sometimes stay late if that's what I really feel those kids need. So that's one of the things that I think it can do. Another one is it encourages learning for who the kids are and what makes them happy. So not only are you learning their names, but you're also learning what their passions are, the games that they enjoy the most, the things that they like to make believe about, their favorite foods, their favorite activities, everything like that. This is one that I really feel like when I have a passion for what I'm doing, I'm really trying to get to know the kids. Another way this passion affects my work is I have a greater desire to interact with them. I have a greater desire to get on the floor. As Caitlin said, that patience, it helps me want to do those monotonous games that they like to do of ring around the rosies. They've done it 15, 20 times and you're like, okay, I'm really done. But having a passion for these kids allows me to push through, and even though I'm done and they're still wanting to do it, so I'll do it for a few more times. And then lastly, it takes what we do from just making money to a day full of fun. That one for me is a really big one. I have found that when I do a job and it's simply just for making money, I don't have that desire to get out of bed in the morning. I don't have the patience for the work throughout the day. I don't have the motivation to do what I really need to be doing, because for me, it's just about a paycheck. So when we can take it from just that paycheck to having a passion about it, for me, it makes it a lot more fun and a lot more enjoyable. And I look forward to going to work every day. So what are some of the things that you've noticed when you have passion for your job? What have you noticed that it's encouraged you to do? No thoughts? That's okay. So, oh, we do have a chat. So, so repeating the question, I'm just wondering, what have you noticed having rephrase. When you have a passion for the work you do, how have you noticed that passion to affect the work that you put forward? So Trisha says that she feels a lot more excited to do the work. Yeah, I definitely agree with that one. And then Caitlin Burridge says, it makes you want to do the best job possible. I agree with that one too, yeah. Perfect. So all of these things that we've talked about, these different ways that it affects your work, the doing better work, the enjoying it. So why is it important to have this passion? And the ways that we've talked about, for sure, definitely. And then because of those ways, the way it affects your work, that excitement that you have to be there, the different things like that, it helps your interaction with the kids to be more genuine and fun. So you aren't dragging your feet behind you as they are wanting you to play tag with them, different things like that. It also helps you give your full attention to the kids. So that means that you're not wanting to just spend your whole time talking to the other adult that is there. You're enjoying the time being with the kids. It also means that you're paying more attention to the kids and you're not on your phone, you're not doing all of those other things. This passion really incentivizes you to be there and interact with the kids. For me, it also, like we said, it helps me have patience and understanding when it comes to a lot of different things, but specifically when it comes to handling conflicts that arise with the kids. And then this one is just a pondering question. You don't have to answer it, but I want you to think, if you had a child that you were leaving in daycare, how much easier would it be for you to leave them if you knew that the teacher in that classroom was passionate and enjoyed being in that classroom with your kid? That to me, I think would make it so much easier, knowing that they had a passion, but just something I wanted you guys to ponder. So the next skill that I wanted to talk about is being pragmatic, or pragmatism. I have never quite known what this word really means. Like, I can use it in sentences, but wasn't sure exactly the definition. So the definition of being pragmatic is the ability to deal with things sensibly and realistically in a way that is based on practical rather than theoretical considerations. So basically you're looking at all sides of things, very practical, very just, this is what happened. And then you're dealing with things based off of the reality instead of a he said, she said. So how would this skill aid in conflict resolution? We talked about conflict resolution a couple weeks ago. So how would being pragmatic help in that? Okay. So I think for me, the biggest one is it helps get rid of any bias. When I've sat down and I've talked with kids, a lot of the times they're very emotional in the moment. And so they'll tell you what they think will get the kid in the most trouble. So it helps get rid of that bias if you're looking at it sensibly and realistically, and you're trying to not just take one kid at their word for what happened, which goes into this next one. You are able to get stories of everyone involved, which I think helps give the best insight into what really happened, and you're able to handle that conflict a lot better when you know all sides of the story. But any other things that you guys can think of when it comes to how that skill would be helpful? Okay, we will move on to our next one, which is patience. And I feel like the last two things that we talked about kind of all go together. So patience, along with being passionate and pragmatic, will really help the kids to gain fast trust in you as a caregiver. We are kind of in a unique position where we have the opportunity to go to a lot of different classrooms and a lot of different daycares. And one of the things that really helps the kids' interaction with you is being able to build trust. And a lot of the times that takes a couple days to do. But I've noticed that when I really try to implement these things right off the bat in these classrooms, it helps me to gain a lot of that trust very quickly, because I've learned their name. I have tried to understand what makes them tick pretty early on. And then I try to look at things from every side, so it's not feeling unfair when I give consequences or I do different things throughout the day. And then patience as well. It can be really hard to do and to keep when you're dealing with a room full of kids. But I have found again that when you're able to be patient, it goes a long way in building that trust. Patience. So what are ways we can stay patient and not act out of emotion? Like, what are some skills that you guys have found to help you stay patient? Trisha says to take deep breaths. I think that's a very big one. Knowing that even in the heat of the moment, when we take deep breaths and we kind of pull ourselves out of that emotion side of the situation, that definitely helps us to stay a lot more patient and calm in the moment. Another one that I have noticed that helps me to stay patient is doing what that last slide said, you know, the pragmatic side of things, where you're able to really not get pulled into that emotion side, but you're okay, this is what you've said, go bring the other person to me, we'll talk about it, try to get the whole situation. That can really help in the staying patient instead of getting really emotional. Anything else before I move on to our last skill? Okay. So flexibility, this one helps, I think, in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different things that happen when we're in classrooms. So being able to be flexible instead of being really rigid with the schedule can be helpful. I do think that holding true to a schedule is really important too. But there are some times when changes need to be made. And while you aren't totally getting rid of the schedule, being able to move things around and being flexible with that can definitely help in a classroom. So flexibility in the classroom includes being able to move around a schedule last minute when hit with last minute things. Some of these last minute things can be the weather. So say like last Friday, we were supposed to do a water day with the kids, but it was raining. It rained all day Thursday and into Friday morning. So it wasn't super warm outside and it was pretty wet. And so doing a water day wasn't really the best on that day. But instead of doing water day, they took the kids upstairs during nap time, the older kids, they took them upstairs and did just some fun games with one of the caregivers. So they still had something fun. They weren't totally bummed out about not doing water day. And then we had popsicles during snack instead, so that it still kind of felt a little bit like a fun time instead of just like what they were doing every other day during the week. But it can be effective both in the cold, but also in the hot. If it's too hot outside, sometimes you have to stay inside. And just being able to be flexible with making it still fun, even though the original plan isn't able to be there. Another one can be kids' emotions. If a child is really, really excited about something, but we have to move it around because all of the other kids are taking naps, it's typically a lot easier to talk that one kid down and say, well, we'll do it after nap time instead of right now, than it is to try to make all of the other kids try to enjoy that activity when they're having meltdowns and they're tired. So sometimes being able to move your schedule around and do nap time a little bit earlier, and then still doing that fun activity just after nap can be the best, instead of trying to force all of the kids to really stick to the schedule that was put in place. And then emergencies, whether it's a full-blown actual emergency, such as a fire happening in the building, or just the emergency practices, like a fire drill. Sometimes we aren't always aware of those, so being able to be flexible and dropping the activity that you're doing then again saying like, we'll pick it up after nap time again in the afternoon because this practice went into and ate into that activity time. So recognizing that it wasn't the kids' fault that their art time got cut short. So being able to be flexible and move that around so that they're still being able to finish their art time can be something that's beneficial as well. And then in real life emergencies, being that flexible and being able to make outside time fun, because if the building is on fire, obviously parents are going to have to be coming and getting their kids, but it takes time to be able to get out of work. So making sure that we're helping them to stay calm and being that flexible of, okay, let's sing songs and do circle time outside while we're waiting. That can be very beneficial in these situations. Okay. So how would being flexible while in a classroom be beneficial to helping a day go smoothly? A couple that we already talked about, but it can help kids feel a sense of control when they are having a meltdown. So again, if there's that super, super tired, being able to say, I just really want to take a nap right now, and being flexible and saying, okay, we'll do nap time earlier, instead of just forcing your schedule. The kids don't have a lot of control when it comes to anything, and being able to feel that little bit of sense of control can really help. For their day to go smoothly as well as your day, you're avoiding the meltdown going further. And it can also prevent meltdown. So if you're noticing that the other kids are starting to get really tired as well, being able to be that flexible again, it can help to ensure that these kids are not experiencing exhaustion and that they're enjoying their day, and they're not just living in the day, basically. And then as well, being flexible helps to be able to meet the needs instead of sticking to that rigid schedule. So again, if they're needing nap time sooner, being able to be flexible and have lunchtime a little bit sooner, or if they get really hungry after nap or something, being able to be flexible sometimes with snack time or water breaks, or just the different things that you're doing, maybe doing playtime a little bit earlier if they're really not being able to focus in circle time, just different things. Having that flexibility in a classroom can really help everybody's day go well, and also smooth, so that we're not dealing with as many meltdowns. So those are the skills that I think are the most beneficial. But what other skills have you guys found to be beneficial in a classroom? Okay, there's not really other skills, maybe this one. Do you guys have any examples of how the skills that we've talked about have helped you in a classroom situation? All right. If there isn't anything else, does anybody have any questions before I go ahead and stop the recording?